It's showtime. Hello, hello, hello. Anyone who's a prompt arriver and anyone watching it back later, hello to you. Luke's already in here. Yes, I did like the joke. I saw that, Luke. The real reason there's a shortage of toilet paper is not people foolishly panic buying because they're not really thinking through their paranoia about coronavirus. There's a rumor that Prime Minister Scott Morrison is returning to Engadine Macca's, so they need to be prepared for that. Because for those who don't know, back in the 90s, the current Prime Minister of Australia, Scott Morrison, shit his pants at Engadine McDonald's. It's a thing that happened. Or somebody just really weirdly came up with that incredibly specific story off the top of their head. Either could be true. Who knows? Hello, Miss Foxification. How are you? Good time to get a bidet. Get one of those really flash Japanese toilets that does all the washing and drying and whatnot. You know what's weird is in a lot of Western countries, well, let's be honest, white people have never got into washing their butt after going to toilets. Toilet paper's been the thing, whereas in, I suppose I'm saying that bidet is a French word, obviously, isn't it? I just don't associate it with French. I associate it with, a whole bunch of places in Asia. But, obviously if it's a French word, there must be some use of it in Europe. And Musical Aviator, hello, you've been to Engadine. Such an exciting place. The Shire. What an exciting part of Sydney that is. Yeah, well, Miss Foxification, you'd understand people in India washing after going poo-poos because large sections of the population wouldn't have access to toilet paper. Still playing with the settings on this camera. Now I worked out how to play with the settings on this camera. It's all good. What's that do? I think it looks pretty good. I play with this. What is brightness, saturation, sharpness, white balance? What's gain do? Ooh, does that? Don't really want to do that, do we? Maybe a little. That's a little bit brighter now. That's maybe a bit too much. That's not bad. What does backlight compensation do? Nothing really. All right, just play with settings. That looks okay. I think that looks okay. This is Foxification with the too much information. Use a small spray bottle. There you go. Did see an American comedian who specializes in, this sort of loudmouth, redneck sort of humor. Bert Kreischer. I found him by looking up The Machine. He's about my physique, basically, and he has a thing for taking his shirt off during shows. And he did a line that I quite liked in one of his live specials. He talked about using an Alabama wet wipe. That's where you spit on the toilet paper before you use it. So I liked it. Luke is offside to join us. Is AZ joining? No, I was in communication with him. He is not well. He seems to have some sort of fever, and I haven't heard from him. His boss of the house was due back, and I said, because he was had all sorts of complications and didn't feel like he could actually even safely leave his little apartment. And I was like, well, dude, maybe you should call a fucking ambulance then, because that doesn't sound good, and you need to be more cautious about your health. He just really hates going to hospital because he's been there so often. I was like, no, get the medical care now before all the services get overwhelmed. Well, first it'll be by people paranoid that they've got coronavirus, and then it'll be by people who actually do have coronavirus. So yes, if you're having I'm not very well problems, fucking get it seen to, sunshine. Get it seen to. So no AIDSy this evening. Hopefully he's not too sick. Hopefully he picks up. Bex, yeah, Sex Workers' Rights Day is today, International Sex Workers' Rights Day. And yes, the American laws known as FOSTA and SESTA, those are acronyms. Those are shit. They're all under the smokescreen of stopping trafficking, which is a good thing. And I'm not aware of any sex worker who says trafficking, i.e. forcing people, as in the old traditional meaning of prostitution. Trafficking is a crime and should always be a crime. And anyone responsible for trafficking should be prosecuted quite heavily. But the laws they introduced, as I said, the ones known as FOSTA and SESTA, are just fucked and have actually targeted legitimate sex workers and made their life a living hell and haven't had any impact on trafficking. Who knew? Everyone feels morally great saying trafficking's bad, I'm going to fight trafficking. And then they deliberately exclude sex workers from the conversation. They deliberately exclude sex workers from the decision-making process of how law should be enforced. And then it's like, and then they ignore all the sex workers and their advocates saying, you're making a big fucking mistake. What you're doing is wrong. It's bad. It's shit. It's wrong. Don't do it. And they ignore them. And then they act super fucking surprised a year or two down the track. It's been really negative for sex workers and has had no impact on trafficking at all. It's fucked. Yes. Oh, is Voxification? You think there's concern about restriction and quarantines? I believe Australian governments, both state and federal, have been quite clear that they are very much into, oh no, we can force quarantine on people. We can absolutely do that. And we will do that. We will use all the powers we have in the legal world to basically force people into quarantine if they don't do it on their own. And yeah, Bex, you're right. The actual effects of these American laws is global, just because of the global reach of the internet, particularly. And yeah, no, the broadly the discrimination against sex workers is absolutely ridiculous. Hi, Kaiju. Are you saying police will get sick from enforcing stuff on sick people? There's a ridiculous story in the US. I think it was the people who were flown in from that cruise ship. The health workers who unloaded them from a plane didn't have any protective equipment and weren't checked up on afterwards. In other words, with a whole bunch of known infected patients, they forced the bloody health workers to be exposed to the virus. It's just like, what the fuck? America is fucked. It's run by idiots, and the methods for dealing with it range from nothing to counterproductive. It's just fucked. Wowzers, Kaiju, you had a run-in with the cops by going home from a convenience store with a 1.5-litre Coke bottle. That seems a weird thing to attract police attention, but you charismaed your way around it. Nice. Bex, I love it. Simpsons memes about toilet paper shortage. It's weird. I mean, I went out with Mrs. Angry last night just to the local supermarket, and it was basically, hey, should we check out if people are freaking out and panic buying locally? And we thought, oh yeah, that sounds like fun. Let's do that. So we went out and checked, and they were, and it seems to have accelerated today. And it's just, woo, okay. I still don't get the toilet paper thing. Why do people think the supply of toilet paper is going to be interrupted? As more and more people get sick and more people, it is all but inevitable now. Nothing's 100%. Who knows? Maybe we will miraculously have an effective containment strategy, but it's all but inevitable that infection is incredibly widespread. Estimates range from 50 to 100% of the population. As more and more people get sick, more and more businesses are going to grind to a halt. The first thing that we'll lose supply of will be fresh food, fresh fruit, veg, meat, because there's so many points in the supply chain that can break down. Non-perishables, they're not going to run out straight away. I mean, yeah, you should get a few extra things that you're going to eat anyway down the line, but a million things of toilet paper is ridiculous. And hi, Mofo Sign and Nug, how's it going? I went to Costco on the weekend just because that's the thing I do somewhere. And I always get the giant thing. Even though we had a fair bit of toilet paper, I went, just in case people do this panic buying thing, I'm going to get these big things. There's like 50 rolls of toilet paper at Costco. So I got one of those. I don't know. I'm like mocking people bulk buying toilet paper, but I didn't take it all off the supermarket shelves. I got the thing that you get from Costco. So honestly, we've probably got like 80 rolls of toilet paper. That sounds bad, doesn't it? I'm saying people panic buying are wrong, but I just happen to bulk buy because I go to Costco. So, yeah. Wonder if Costco is going to be a wasteland, because the supermarkets are increasingly turning into wasteland. I was really surprised at how much extra was being bought in fresh fruit and veg. Good on you for being healthy, but it's not like that keeps a long time. So I was quite surprised that there was noticeably more buying of fresh fruit and veg. It was weird. Bobo, you're in the Latrobe Valley. Yeah, I think the panic has been more in the cities and suburbs. People I know with lower population areas haven't seen as much panic buying, but it sure is widespread in the suburbs. So, Koji, you want to have no fear and talk matter of factly with a cop? My biggest getaway with shit with a cop, well, I can think of two actually, but by far the biggest one was when I was turning right from a side street onto a busy road, Parramatta Road in Sydney, the busiest road. And someone behind me was beeping because, I don't know, they'd got stuck behind me when I was turning right and they were upset about it. So I leaned out the window. I didn't look. I just stuck my arm out the window and gave him the finger. And then when it was safe, I turned right. And then these police lights went off and I went, I just gave a finger to the cops. And I just said, dude, sorry. I wasn't really like you, the finger. I didn't look and see who it was. I just thought it was someone obnoxious trying to force me to do an unsafe turn because it wasn't convenient for them to wait till it was safe. And the cop said, no, it's not that. It was like 4:40 and there was no right turn from this street after 4:30, which I didn't know. And I just went, Joe. And he said, don't worry, I'm not going to book you. It's just because I was literally honest. I just thought I didn't look and see who it was. I just thought it was an obnoxious prick. and he's trying to make me do something unsafe for his convenience. And then when he told me what I'd done, and I went, oh, there's no way out of this, and I just went, and he went, don't worry, I'm not going to book you. I thought, and this was a long time ago. Like I was in my early 20s. It's not because I'm a respectable middle-aged man that he let me off. So, I don't know. Becky Hubby used to get patted down by cops in high school. You think he's a sweet, innocent angel. The cops clearly don't agree. Yeah. The other one is a very close call. Is not long after. I don't think I'd even permanently moved to Melbourne because I lived in Sydney for 10 years before I moved to Melbourne. But my girlfriend at the time was from Melbourne, and she had a car registered in Victoria, and I'd gone back to Sydney and going. It's probably Parramatta Road again. It was a busy road, but we were going on left, and there was a McDonald's here on traffic lights, and I think it was like, kids saying, "Can we?" I forget what it was. Someone wanted to get McDonald's. There were traffic lights. I was in the right turning lane, so I did a U-turn to get to the McDonald's, and I went in the car, and this cop car followed me, and I thought they really seem to be following me. Why is that? And I said, "I'll just pretend you haven't done anything wrong, so you don't think they're following you." So I just parked, and they came up behind me, and I just went, "Is there a problem?" And they went, "It's illegal to do a U-turn at traffic lights." And I was like, "Oh, I didn't see a no U-turn sign." And they went, "Oh, no, I understand," because I had Victorian plates on the car, but I had New South. Sorry, food between my teeth just came loose. That's gross. That's a bit too much information. You could see there was Victorian plates on the car, but I had a New South Wales driver's license. And he said, "Oh, no, we understand." Because the law in Victoria is the opposite. You are allowed to do a U-turn at traffic lights, if it's safe, if there isn't a sign that says no U-turn. Whereas in New South Wales, you're only allowed to do a U-turn at the traffic lights if there's a sign saying U-turn permitted, which is, fucking fantastic. But he's like, "I'm not going to book you because you've got, you're from Victoria." And, because I wasn't being a dick about it, I guess. And at that point, I go, okay, if he now asks to see my license, it's a New South Wales license, and he'll be doubly pissed off because it's like, "Oh, you should have told me you were from New South Wales." Ooh, and he would have been done with me. But if he doesn't ask for the license, then I'm off scot-free because he says he's letting me off. And I just had a couple seconds of ticking over in my brain. This is a gamble. If you say, "I'm actually from New South Wales," he's probably going to book you. And if you don't say anything and he asks for your license, then he will book you and he'll be really shitty. But if he doesn't ask for your license and you don't say anything, you're scot-free. And I just for a couple seconds, it just turned over in my head. And I went, fuck it, roll the dice, don't say anything. And he didn't ask for my license, and he went away. And I was like, oh my God, that was really tense. That was really tense for a bit. Sophie's saying sex work's still illegal in South Australia, and Beck's saying, yeah, workers in South Australia get trapped, money taken. And that's like when you get these people who recommend the Nordic model. You may have heard people say that. And that's the idea that sex workers aren't prosecuted, but their clients will be. It's illegal for their clients to pay. And so the clients get prosecuted, not the sex workers. And some people say, that's a perfect thing. And like, no, because actual real experience shows us that still makes sex workers vulnerable, still leaves them open to abuse. You still don't have any legal recourse from dangerous or violent clients, and you still can't trust the cops. And it's just Shit. Oh, I like that musical aviator. Daily Telegraph sales spike as supermarkets run out of toilet paper. Yes, I've heard that Murdoch publications are very absorbent. So, yeah. Was Bobo years ago giving a mate a lift home at 2 a.m. on Queensland plates and license, looking for an address in Carlisle Road in St Kilda. Cops, because that's what passes for not so much now, but in the past it had been Melbourne's closest thing to a red light district. There was still some street workers there, but yes, if you were Queensland plates slowly driving along Carlisle Street, it would make the cops very suspicious. Very suspicious. I think I've told this story before. I had very weird experiences on Inkerman Road, where again you did get some street workers there, which is not legal in Victoria. I was walking up the road, and there was this young lady, like in a tank top and a dress. And I didn't think that much of it because she honestly wasn't dressed in any particularly stereotype sex worker way. There's a skirt and a tank top, and it was like peak hour. There's a lot of traffic going by, and I was just walking on the footpath, and just as I walked past her, sort of like something in my peripheral vision and my brain was ticking over, and I go, I think something unusual just happened. What unusual thing just happened? And because it only happened in my peripheral vision, and it was so unusual, I didn't register for it. And what happened is she flashed her. That was why she's wearing a tank top. She flashed her boobs at the cars that are going past to try and tempt someone to stop. And because that is a very uncommon thing to, just as you're walking past someone on the street, have them flash their boobs. It's uncommon for me anyway. And it was in my peripheral vision rather than right in front of me. It took my brain a couple of seconds to process. And then I was just like, well, okay, that was unusual. I guess I'll keep working. Yeah, Bex, I missed it. She wasn't doing it for me. She would have done it as I was approaching. She was trying to attract or she must have thought someone looked slightly interested in a car, and she flashed. It was so weird. I was just like, it took there's a good few seconds for my brain to process what had happened. I was just like, oh my God. Yes, I did see that in this Foxification. The Australian Associated Press, AAP, wire service, closing down. They say they can no longer make money in the journalism world because of free online content. It is the way of things. And I always throw out when people go, oh, the internet's killing journalism. First half the time, journalism is so bad, I have trouble thinking it's a bad idea. But it would be bad if quality journalism went away altogether. But it's not free access to news that is most damaging to the media industry. It's that the internet absolutely massacred the advertising market for newspapers and magazines. Newspapers in particular. I think it's probably not going too far to say advertising revenue since say 1990, so 30 years. I think advertising revenue to newspapers, particularly classifieds, they used to make an absolute fortune on classifieds, but I don't think it's an exaggeration to say advertising revenue for newspapers has dropped by more than 80% in the last 30 years. Fucking classifieds, it's probably dropped 99%. No one uses classifieds anymore. And classifieds were huge. Like, it was the most valuable part of the Fairfax empire back in pre-internet days. Classifieds were a fucking license to print money. and now they're worthless. No one, okay, slight exaggeration, but close enough to no one uses classifieds anymore. Internet advertising has ripped the guts out of the previous advertising market. So yes, while they sell many few newspapers than they do, like, again, newspaper circulation, let's look it up. Newspaper circulation decline since 1990. See what comes up. Here we go. Decline of newspapers according to Wikipedia. Elsewhere, I thought there was a financial strategies crisis. Oh, I'm looking at this. Okay. U.S. newspaper advertising revenue. From 1950, it was worth $20 billion in the US. That's across the US. And it climbed to, by the year 2000, it was worth, it reached a peak of about $70 billion. And yeah, in the last 20 years, it's lost 80%. They've lost 80 to 90% of their print revenue, and they simply haven't recouped it with online advertising. So that's advertising. I'm sure circulation's probably even more severe. But yeah, you got to remember that they never made their money from the cover price. Yes, they made some money from the cover price, but they made immeasurably more from advertising, and they've lost, just in 20 years, 80 to 90% of their advertising revenue. That's what's killed them. Now, see if oh god, this looks like a bloody academic research into circulation decline. Show me some interesting figures. Okay, from this is Canada. Oh, it's probably universal, but okay. 1950, they're saying 100% of households paid for a newspaper in 1950. And by 2010, that had dropped to 30%. It's like a 70% drop. Okay, I don't know what that chart even means. Circulation. Why Canada? I was obviously this is a Canadian study, but the decline will have been as sharp since then. Let's see if we can find one that's not Canada. Not to be too harsh on you, Canada. Advertising revenue again. Print apocalypse of American newspapers from the Atlantic. See, I want easy, digestible information. I want a chart that shows me the decline. But again, conservative. All right, ditch that. But conservatively, circulation's dropped in the last 30 years. It's dropped 80, 90%. Ooh, that's nice. Misclassification. The Age has got its digital audience up to the highest ever. Just a small one, but again, it's this tiny thing. It's like the growth in online is this much, and the decline in physical is this much, which is why. I mean, I even remember when I first started working in technology, the Age of the Sydney Morning Herald ran a technology section once a week, and it was like this fucking thick, like because it was a broadsheet. And I just remember the technology section when it was folded over, it was like this thick. And now if they do any technology reporting, it's a couple of pages because everyone gets technology news on the internet. I know. So I saw someone stocking up on booze. Luke, I love the idea, Luke. I've been thinking that. I wanted to ask, okay, so the supermarkets are running out of rice and pasta and hand sanitizer and toilet paper. But what about the bottle shops? I want to talk to the people in the bottle shops. What booze sales have gone up? What is the Australian public using to drown their fear and paranoia? Because it's going to be happening. We just know it's going to be happening. Aloha from Honolulu. Aloha to you, Dwayne. Thanks for joining us. Lions Buddy, yeah, we were just talking about, we started with AAP and then I just went into the general decline of print media. Broadcast media hasn't suffered as badly as print, but broadcast media has suffered. But print media has just been massacred. See, misfalsification, I'm very wary of false equivalence, saying things like, well, this kills more people than... Realistic estimates, and look, there might be some miracle that makes it less than this, but realistic estimates of the rate of infection for COVID-19 are 50 to 100% of the population. Like some really quite respectable, non-hysterical medical people have been saying, basically everyone's going to get it. And some people trying to make it sound, no, I think it might be closer to 50%. And if we have a really good containment strategy, it might, you might even get it down to 30%. But it's looking like 50% infection rate is conservative. And with a 2%, and we don't know how consistent the 2% fatality rate is going to be. There's not enough data yet to be confident that it's going to hold at 2%. We might be much better. Like the fatality rate might drop under 1%. It might get a bit higher. I think all the evidence so far is the fatality rate probably won't get much higher than 2%. And you can also say, well, we also know who the at-risk group is. Very significant at-risk group are older people and someone who already has lung-related illnesses. Younger people without pre-existing conditions will almost definitely recover. But if you look at, if we maintain a 2% fatality rate, and if half of Australia gets infected, which it at the moment seems like a conservative estimate, that's a death toll of 200,000 in the next year or so. The next 6 months is probably going to be the worst because we're lucky enough to get coronavirus rapidly accelerating as we approach our winter, which is a higher risk period for influenza generally. Normally kills a whole bunch of people over winter. So like up till August is high risk period for us. So yeah, it could easily have a death toll of 200,000 in Australia. Jesus, globally, the death toll could easily be 50 or 60 million. We might get really lucky. It might be much lower. So, yeah. Bex, we've had one person die in Australia. But basically the infection spreading. Again, most of the health authorities just go, yeah, containment's not good. We can maybe slow it, and slowing it's worthwhile. Even if the ultimate infection rate, like, a year down the track, approaches a majority of the population, slowing the spread is very good because it gives the health authorities more time to come up with strategies, and there's more opportunity to develop vaccination. Although, again, I think even the most optimistic projections are there won't be a vaccine until next year. And that's the optimistic projections. So, yeah. This Foxification, you think if it's a bitterly cold winter, more people stay home? I think we are not far off people getting too freaked out to go to big public events. Like, what is it, Tuesday? And the rate of paranoia increase in just the last 48 hours has been pretty noticeable. Like, my son, young Mr. Angry, he was going to go to the Supernova event this weekend. It's on in Melbourne. Normally it'd be thousands and thousands of people. By Saturday, how many people are going to be too paranoid to go? How and everyone's bought the tickets in advance, so the event organizers aren't going to really care. But yeah, how many people are going to be paranoid and not go? And we're rapidly approaching football season. You imagine if the rate of infection grows by football season, there's a very high chance the recommendation could be nobody should physically attend football games. The football players could still go and play, and it could still be televised, but with no crowd, which would be absolutely surreal. That would be very weird. But there is a better than even chance that even by the start of the season, the recommendation will be don't go to games. And honestly, if it doesn't end up becoming a formal rule, that they either cancel the season or the season goes on with no crowd in attendance, I will be very surprised if that doesn't happen. I will be super surprised if that doesn't happen, because that's just a horrific disease vector, tens of thousands of people and the thing. So just weird everyday bits of life being completely disrupted. Bex, you want people to be too paranoid to get Green Day tickets so you can get good seats. Well, yeah. But that's the thing. Concerts might get cancelled. Like, if you were an event organizer, you might be looking at cutting your losses for the rest of the year rather than going through all the ticket sales and then having to cancel and refund them, and you'd lose a bunch of money doing that in transaction fees. I think a lot of event organizers will be seriously considering just cancelling stuff for the rest of the year. Melbourne International Comedy Festival is due to start in a couple of weeks. Again, if the disease spread expands, by then the advice might be, oh, fuck, going out is a bad idea. And if they either cancel the Melbourne International Comedy Festival or people's paranoia just means no one goes out, hundreds of these independent comedians are going to get absolutely fucking massacred financially because they've all booked their venues months ago, and that's going to be the venues aren't going to give them their money back. I don't know. Okay, there's a big asterisk there because I don't know if the festival is insured. So if disasters like this happen and they have to cancel, that the insurance pays for it. But if a whole bunch of huge events have insurance that covers them, insurance companies are going to go broke, because insurance is based on 1% or less of insured cases having to be paid out on. If you start ratcheting up to 10, 20% of the things they've insured requesting a payout, the insurance companies are going to go broke. Like, the unpredictable knock-on effects of this are just wild. Bobo, you think the Olympics should be cancelled? IOC is talking about delaying it. Yeah, but delaying it, you'd have to delay it at least a year, which, again, they might do. But, yeah, I mean, and the Olympics is billions of dollars, so they're not going to want to cancel it. But, yeah, if you delay it, it's going to be a thing. Oh, Safa, this is going to be worse than the global financial crisis. This is going to be so much worse. So much worse. There is literally going to be cascading economic disasters out of this. It's going to be fucking bad. So if you've got a friend in Japan, end of this month, young Mizangri is supposed to be going to university in Japan. In and of itself, it's not that bad. She's not any less safe in Japan than she is in Australia. Japan's got a proper health system and all that sort of thing. And yes, she might get sick over there, which would be distressing. The university might shut down. It's still a couple of weeks off. They might say, like, we're actually, suspending the universities. They better fucking refund what we paid up front if they do that. But yeah, 3 weeks off, she could get sick before she goes. Then she won't be allowed to travel. She won't be allowed to go there if she's sick. It's just fucking everywhere. Look, Miss Fox question. The idea is, I don't think the spread of COVID-19 is going to be even slowed before this time next year. I hope I'm wrong, but it's not looking good. Yeah. Yes, Lions Buddy, you are right. We have absolute geniuses in control in Australia. We have nothing to worry about. They are not a bunch of incompetent morons. We are fine. Yep, that's the big one, Bobo. The global economy is about to learn the problems with a single point of failure, with so much of the global economy being dependent on China, and China being the epicenter of the infection. We're already seeing supply chain disruptions cascading out around the world, and it's only just started. It's going to be shit. Catherine, you were researching funding to go on tour in South Korea with your theatre company. Yeah, no, that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. The idea of traveling to South Korea, it's about to break wide in South Korea. The next hotspots, obviously, it's really going to town in China. The next hotspots, South Korea. And this is the infections are already, but it's South Korea, Iran, Italy, looks like France as well. The Louvre closed in France because they decided it was too much of a public health risk. Like, it is the most visited museum in the world, just an enormous number of people going through it every day. And there was just a decision that was too big a public health risk. And they have closed the Louvre to visitors. So, dun, dun, dun. Yeah, Safar, I don't think you really want to perpetuate the idea that this happened from people eating exotic animals in China, because there's been just a huge amount of fucking racism and ridiculous paranoid conspiracies about China. Oh yeah, I did see that, Miss Foxification. The bloody South Korea's biggest problem was this weird Christian doomsday cult, and they're very secretive, and they got thousands of members, and they wouldn't, and they must live in compounds or communes or something, and they wouldn't initially cooperate with the authorities, and they had an outbreak, and I think they understated how many people were sick. Yeah, and apparently it's 90% of the cases in Korea are from this one fucking cult. And yeah, the South Korean government was even making noises like they might charge the leader of the cult with murder because of his reckless disregard. Yeah. Cult leaders, you can't trust them. Who knew? Who knew that cult leaders could be a problem? Cults always seemed so trustworthy to me. Oh yeah, that was the one, Line Spider. Was it Indonesia? The clerics in Indonesia were saying the power of prayer will keep us safe. Turns out, no. There are cases in Indonesia that nothing keeps it out. Very aggressive and sensible health policy can help slow the spread, but it's going to be everywhere. So yeah. Yeah, Bobo, it's not about bioweapon. I've seen that conspiracy and it's fucking ridiculous. It's not a bioweapon. These sorts of infections are always around. This is why I don't even know what's the proper name from disease people. Epidemiologists. There's probably a really good name for the people who study infectious diseases and epidemics. And they've been fucking nervous as hell for decades because they're just going, oh my God, we're just on a razor's edge. There are so many things that could reach crisis point and be a global pandemic. And this looks like the big one. And like I said, our one saving grace is that it seems like it has a comparatively low fatality rate because it's got a comparatively high transmission rate. So where we dodged a bullet with SARS had like 5 times higher fatality rate than COVID-19, but it was much harder to catch, much harder to catch. And that's how it was contained. There's the trouble, COVID-19, virtually impossible to contain because it's so easy to catch. But we're really lucky it has that comparatively low fatality rate. Yeah, so for kids seem great, even babies, because often with these diseases, there are 3 groups who are most at risk: the very old, the very sick, and the very young. And it seems like kids, even babies, are very resilient against this infection, which is great. Old people, not so good. And anybody with an existing like respiratory illness, not good. I'm not sure which ones are the highest risk, but obviously if you have severe things like cystic fibrosis, not good news for you. But yeah, because apparently the complication is in a lot of cases it turns into pneumonia, and if you're weak against that, that's what kills you. So that's old people and people with lung disorders. So yeah. Safa, Google's advertising new face masks. Can you still get them anywhere? But they're useless. Absolutely useless for me because facial hair stops you getting a good seal on the mask. But 99% of the masks that it's possible to get are absolutely useless. In my case, that becomes 100%. But we've been talking about this at home. We've got disposable rubber gloves here. It's like if it gets bad, but I'm still going to work, what it might do is wear one of those little surgical masks and gloves. Gloves, so when I'm touching, the fucking poles you hang on to on public transport, it's not getting on my skin. And the mask not to stop breathing in germs, but to stop me from touching my face. Because everyone does it reflexively. I've noticed I'm really, as soon as they started saying, don't touch your face, like, I notice I do this every 5 fucking seconds. But if I was wearing one of these masks, that would stop me from doing it. But yeah, I'm very lucky at the moment. My current employer will be very supportive of working from home if the time comes. I just do office work. I got a team. I can talk to people on phones, get on Skype and shit like that. So my current employer, and this is important because I'm a contractor, and if I don't work, I don't get paid. My current employer would probably be very supportive for an extended period of working from home, because I can stay in contact with everyone. I have to talk to people. I can do that on phone or Skype, and I have to write documents. I can do that on a laptop. So I'm quite lucky on that front, because I can think of other places I've worked that I wouldn't trust to be as supportive. And of course, if you work in retail, if you work in hospitality, anything that involves, if you work in construction, there's a huge chunk of the population cannot work from home. So everything starts falling apart if it's bad for people to be going into work. And it's just like, and we could see that. It's like, I don't fucking know. This sucks. I mean, yes, rightly, everyone's first focus on, this is scary. I don't want to get sick. I don't want to die. But economically, this is going to be fucking disastrous. This is just going to be fucked. So many people are going to lose their jobs. So many people going to businesses are going to go under. Yeah, long term we could end up with fuel shortages, misfoxification. It's the supply chain that's the thing. The supply chain depends on people being able to deliver things. Now this is why fresh produce is the first thing we're going to miss out on, because that's got more pieces in the supply chain. It's the people who have to grow the produce. It's the people who have to pick the produce. It's the people who have to get it onto trucks. It's the people who have to drive the trucks. It's the people in the distribute. There are all these points where if a tipping point of people are too sick to go to work, the supply chain breaks down. So fresh fruit and veg and produce is the first thing that's going to suffer. Milk and meat and eggs and fruit and veg, that's what's going to suffer first. But in a worst case scenario, it could eventually fall over into dry goods, non-perishables or lesser perishables, and fuel. And if we're really, really, really unlucky, we could get disruptions to water and energy. That's probably the furthest down the line and the least likely, but it's possible. Disruptions to water and energy. That's when it gets really fucked, if we get disruptions to water and energy. But that's really unlikely. It's possible, but really unlikely. If you're not already paranoid, go watch the movie about a global pandemic. It's got fucking Matt Damon in it and Gwyneth Paltrow. It wasn't called Pandemic. Contagion, because it's really plausible, and it's, yes, you know it, Nug. It's about a flu virus, which I think started in China and involved bats and pigs. And I think it's a flu virus that has a much higher fatality rate than COVID-19 and affects a much broader swath of the population than COVID-19. But yeah, if you're not already paranoid, go and watch that. That'll freak you right to fuck out. It's pretty freaky. I thought it was quite a well done movie because it's not actually hysterical, and it really examines things like essentially the breakdown of capitalism. So it focuses on America. So everyone's reliant on government supplies that are distributed by the military. You know, you get your daily rations from a distribution center. Pretty full on. Oh, no. Apparently, our vaccination's not relevant in this case because there is no vaccine. Who it's going to affect is people who have existing health conditions. Older people and people with existing serious health conditions. Catherine, how long till power goes out? Because you're staying from... I think it's very unlikely the power will go out at all. But for that to happen, I think there would have to be a fairly catastrophic spread that lasts for months. So, like, I think that's like that would be 50% or more of the population sick at the same time, and people being off work for an extended period. That's actually one thing I'm not sure of and I don't know that we have enough data for this at the moment because there are not that many cases. It's thousands, but thousands worldwide is not that many. I don't know if we know how long it affects otherwise healthy adults who recover. How long are they out of action? Are they out of action a day, a week, a month? Because I worked with someone who had pneumonia years ago, and when I started, she had been off, I think, most of the previous month. Like, she'd been out for weeks at least because she had pneumonia. And when I started, she was just starting to come back because she wasn't infectious, but her body was just... and she'd like come into work like, oh, they're going to come back into work, and she'd be there for 1 day, and then that would take so much out of her. You wouldn't see her for 2 or 3 days, and then she'd get a bit better and go, I can be here for 2 days, and then she'd be out for a day or two. Like, severe pneumonia in a healthy young adult can knock the fuck out of you for months, whereas some influenzas, like I had a stomach, and it was not, or like when someone just has a cold, they say they have the flu. No, this was a fucking stomach virus, flu virus I had last year, and which I got at fucking VidCon, and it was fucked. It was 12 hours of violent vomiting. I think I had diarrhea too. The vomiting is what I really remember because all my muscles were so sore. It was like a 12-hour workout. It's 12 hours of like delirium, and because it happened at night. So 12 hours of really violent vomiting, and then 12 hours of still having a fever. So 12 hours of vomiting, thinking I was going to die. 12 hours of fever and feeling like shit and wondering why I wasn't dead. and then about 3 days just to recover my strength. But that was no complications. Like, it didn't complicate. It didn't get into my lungs. And then I felt really bad because I gave it to Mrs. Angry. But she never threw up, but she had a really bad fever that lasted for more than a day. And, she was just like, oh, I think I'm dying. And that's just flu without any complications. And there's the thing, apparently COVID-19, you're very likely to get complicated, like develop into pneumonia. So we don't know how long people will be out of the workforce. If it gets widespread, but otherwise healthy adults are only off work for a week, the disruption to the economy's not absolutely critical. It's going to be bad, but not like we're going to lose power and water and whatnot. But if there's a widespread thing where people are out for a month, which fucking pneumonia will do that to you, and not necessarily everyone, but if a large chunk of people get infected, get complications like pneumonia, and they're out for a month, that's when you start getting really fucked effects on the economy. So, yeah. Bobo, you can't trust any world leaders. I was about to say, some are just less bad than others. Angela Merkel's not terrible. Jacinda Ardern, she's not bad. Yes. Yeah, Miss Foxation, that's the other thing. It can be transmissible after you recover. This is something we don't have enough data on yet, but apparently there are all these things where, look, it's possible someone can still infect someone else like a month after they contracted it. And this is why it's going to spread so far, because it's just fucking so easy to catch. Oh, Catherine, yeah, no need to panic. Yeah, see, it's 1,000,000 to 1 that you're going to suffer any serious health complications. There's an even chance you're going to get sick, but the chance of you getting serious complications are like 1,000,000 to 1. So yeah. Yes, that's the thing. This Foxcation is saying, I've seen that similar figure, that the time from symptom onset to recovery has been from 12 to 32 days. Yeah. So, fuck, if the minimum's 2 weeks, that's bad. But yeah, if it really depends. Like, yeah, if people are out but particularly people in critical roles, like the people we need to get petrol to petrol stations, the people we need to run the power stations, run the water stations, etc. A week would be bad. If they were out for a week, which seems likely, that would be bad. If you're talking 2 weeks, that's very bad. If you're talking a month, okay, that's when we start suffering disruptions. If we have, like, over the next 6 months, which is going to be the worst for Australia, and it might actually peak at the end of that, it's likely to start getting really bad, like a really large number of people getting sick in April, May, but it's likely to peak much later, like as late as August. But yes. Line Spider, article heading, with only 3 official cases, Africa's low corona rate puzzles health experts. Okay, it's not being reported. I mean, it's not fucking rocket science. Why is it not being reported? Because the infrastructure's not there to track it. That's why. And maybe because the people from the early infected countries don't travel that much to Africa, but only a couple official cases now doesn't mean doodly squat in the medium to long term. Oh, but are you talking about the guy from the health department in Iran who's like, no, it's fine, we're on top of it, and then a day or two later they confirmed that he had coronavirus? Oh my god! But there was a guy in America, was on the evening news. He'd been tested he was regarded as recovered, but he couldn't stop coughing when he was on which is probably just nervousness, but it was just funny. It was just funny that he's on there saying, "No, I completely recovered." It's like, oh, dude, that is not convincing. That is absolutely not convincing. Not even a little bit. He apparently was completely recovered. It was just funny that he couldn't stop coughing. I can laugh because he was recovered. But yeah, it didn't engender a lot of confidence. The fact that he couldn't stop coughing. Hey, look, it's halfway. I'm going to make I actually had a cocktail in mind. I'm going to try something a bit different because I saw this recipe and I'm actually changing a little bit from what I saw. Actually, first I should get. Do I want to? No, I'm not going to fiddle with a fancy glass. I'm just going to get my standard tiki mug and put a big chunk of ice in it, which is not strictly speaking how you're meant to serve this drink, but I don't care. Oh, I want to do it. Oh, God, I've got to put ice on. Do a viewing party too. Okay. So, got to top up some of my ice for this, and it's Aperol. Basically, I'm making an Aperol sour. So, speaking of sour, I need some lemon juice. Need my sweetener, sugar syrup that I made with coconut sugar. Egg white. Right. I think that's all my ingredients. Give me 2 seconds. I'm going to check. Okay. Bitters. I had a feeling there was one more thing. Which of my bitters will I put in? Where are my bitters? It's never one bitter. It's always bitters. Yeah, I'm going to use this one, Negroni bitters. Okay. So, I might shake. Oh, yeah, I'm doing egg white. I'm going to shake this one. Okay. I thought I had my cocktail shaker. It's here. All right. Okay. I'm going to shake this because it's got egg white and I want it to go all foamy. So I find it funny when I look at cocktail channels on YouTube and they talk about you want to really shake it when you're doing an egg white thing, and they use technical terms about what it's doing to the egg white, and it's like, it's making it frothy, dude. Don't try and use clever words. Just say it's making it frothy. Ooh. All right. I'm making this because I just had a little bit of Aperol left in that bottle and I wanted to finish it. And it's supposed to be... Oh, wait a sec. Is that 2 ounces? There's 2 ounces. Should know this by now. Yeah, okay. So the recipe said 2 ounces of Aperol. This is actually a really low alcohol drink. Aperol's only 20%. 20%, is it? It's a bitter Italian aperitif. Yeah, there's only 6 standard drinks in this whole bottle. What's the alcohol content? They're really only 11% alcohol. I should beef it up. I should, shouldn't I? Yes. Tell me I should beef it up. Hey, how's it going, buddy? How you doing, buddy? Yeah, okay. Should beef it up. That's only 11% alcohol. That's not good enough, is it? What will we beef it up with? Absinthe? Beef it up with absinthe? Yeah, beef it up. Ooh, that'll be a really interesting color, actually. Oh, where's my herbal? I'm going to do absinthe. Ooh, no. Where is it? Yeah, chartreuse. I'm going to do it with chartreuse, which is sort of absinthe tamer cousin. I'll just put an ounce of I think that was an ounce and a half. Yikes, not even free pouring. I was going a bit much. Chartreuse is a herbal liqueur, not as bitter as Aperol. And like I said, I don't know if I did say, the recipe that inspired this called for Campari, and I fucking hate Campari. It's too bitter. I don't mind being. All right, so sweetener, sugar syrup I made with unrefined coconut sugar. It was on special in the supermarket, and I thought, that sounds interesting. That would make a good sugar syrup. It did. It's very malty, almost like golden syrup. Right. Egg white. Rather than cracking an egg, and use my egg white I got from the supermarket, which I think is meant to... Oh, what the fuck? I hate it when I do that. Poured it into the wrong receptacle. Bad angry. No donut. Ugh. Silly boy. Lemon. Where'd you go? An ounce of lemon in there. All right, I'm going to put some bitters on the top when I shake it. Shake it like a Polaroid pictures. So I used to feed the Marines chartreuse shots. No, that's an evil bastard if they're not prepared for it. Because green chartreuse is about 50% alcohol. It's a bit beastly. Friendly Geordies. Sending a message from Locust Trooper saying hello. What's Locust Trooper up to? James, how are you? Good morning to you. From what part of the world do you bid us good morning? I'm having an eye-opener, a morning cocktail. Quite an odd mix, really. Okay, right. Ooh, it's got an interesting colour. Ooh, yeah. The brown note. Okay. It's got an orangey brown, which is not all that surprising considering the ingredients I put in it. Safa, where is Aidsy tonight? He is sick. He is hopefully getting a... Oh yeah, that looks pretty orange on the camera. Yeah. Yeah. It's the red Aperol, and I think actually the thing that's made it go a bit orange leaning towards brown is the sugar syrup I made, which is really dark. Aussie Gum Bunny tastes like... Yes, Big Bad has the fake Geordies account. Yes, because you can write anything as your username. Yeah, so what's chartreuse is pretty wild. Like it's got its whole history. This is one of those drinks that only like one distillery is allowed to make. James, you're in New York. Birthday breakfast, cigarette, and coffee. Nice. Happy birthday to you. Enjoy chartreuse in a balloon glass with lots of crushed ice. They're straight, basically, or with tonic. Not very inventive. It's French. Yeah, this is 55% alcohol. Okay. I think yellow chartreuse is about 45%. Slightly milder taste as well. But manufactured from complete natural ingredients up to its very color. Advised to be tasted on the rocks. That's the other thing, the people who make chartreuse, they claim that, yes, you know the whole thing about green not really working. It looks sort of brown there. But it's a light green color. And they say that's completely natural from the herbal elements. And they claim they're the only liqueur where the green color is natural. I'm not sure that's actually true. But that's one of the things they claim. All right. I think my drink is sufficiently chilled. Oh, that's pretty good. That works. You have to like bitter. The Aperol. Oh, I was going to put some bitters in it too, wasn't I? Actually, I'll be interested how much difference it makes. The Aperol makes it bitter, as it says, not as bitter as Campari. Sort of Italian cousins, Aperol and Campari. But the chartreuse has leveled that out a bit, and of course, I put some sugar syrup in as well. But you have to like bitter. Never tried yet. I don't think I don't have any yellow chartreuse at home, but I have tried cocktails out in bars where yellow chartreuse was in the thing. No, I'm messing about. I see. It was. You say I'm not messing about with the bitters. There's only putting a couple of drops in, whereas I don't know why it is. This particular dropper only picks up a couple of drops when I do it. So, although you saw me squeeze it a whole bunch of times, that was probably only 2 dashes of bitters because so little came out. But that's pretty good. Yes, I'm starting up my formal cocktail mixing channel. It exists, actually. I've set up. There's Angry Cocktails. I was going to share the first video. Let me see. See if I can bring it up. This is not public yet. This is an unlisted video. Let me bring it up. But I thought I would share it with you all. If it loads. There we go. Okay, so that's that. Okay, volume is off. So I better put volume on. Right. So it's not otherwise. It's probably like 2 dashes of the bitters. This is an Australian-made one. I've got so many different sorts of bitters. There's a place in Fitzroy called the Bitters Lab. They have hundreds of sorts of bitters. No, go to head off. Thanks for dropping by, man. They have literally hundreds of sorts of bitters and other cocktail stuff. And they also have a good website, onlybitters.com, where you can get all sorts of things. This is Australian made, Mr. Bitters. Oh, I forgot. Yeah, because I've got fixed focus on there. So if I put that up there, it's out of focus. Because the auto-changing focus was annoying some people. So Mr. Bitters is Australian made. They call this then Negroni Bitters. Made in Melbourne, Australia from natural ingredients. They're saying this is orange, chamomile, and spices. Meant to taste like a Negroni, which is a bit of cocktail. But yeah, I have about 6 different sorts of bitters that I've got from there. But hey, who wants to? I'm going to do a viewing party and give you all a taste test of my cocktail channel. Although this video is up as unlisted, I'm not going to make it public until I've shot another couple of videos and have some friends around and make some cocktails and have a bit of fun. So this is like my introduction video where I talk about how to start your own cocktail adventure. So let me do the share screen. Chrome tab, that's what I want. Bloody hell. All right, so that's this one. So I'm going to share this screen and we'll go full screen, which I think will work. Here we go. G'day viewers, welcome to Cocktails with Angry, or Angry Cocktails. Something I've been threatening to do for a long time. I really enjoy cocktails. I've never actually worked in a bar at all, let alone been a professional cocktail maker, mixologist, as some people insist on saying, but I basically like cocktails. I started to get into making my own, and I enjoyed it, and I got more and more into it. And I often share cocktails I make on the socials, and while I do like the classics and I regularly make the classics, I often improvise and make up my own variations and share those. And people have been saying to me for ages, you should actually have a channel specifically for this. Do this on YouTube, Instagram. So I'm doing it. And first things first, I'm here to help you get started, because while I've managed to put together a collection like this, and yes, that is all my collection, that takes a while to build up. Unless you're filthy rich, it took me a couple of years. So you need to start somewhere. And where do you start? Well, you've got to start with some basic spirits. Now, what you get is going to depend on the type of things you like to drink. But I don't think there'd be a huge amount of argument to say, oh, I've got enough to have 3 spirits. I would say your starting point is gin, vodka, and whiskey. Those 3 are the base of a lot of drinks, and you can make quite a bit with just those 3. Of course, the complications are there are a lot of variations of gin. There are kind of variations on vodka, but in blind taste tests, people have a lot harder time telling the difference between vodkas. But there are literally thousands of whiskies around the world. And there are even big divisions. There's obviously Scotch whiskey, there's Irish whiskey, there's American bourbon, there's American rye, there's Canadian whiskey. There are very popular Japanese whiskies. There's some quality whiskies being made all over, including Australia. But if you go, I think the big 4 are Scotch, Irish, bourbon, and rye. It's going to be down to your taste. If you're already a Scotch drinker, get that. If you are not sure, out of all those, I'd recommend the first one you get is bourbon. It's sweeter than the others, so it's a bit easier to ease yourself into whiskey-based cocktails with that. But as you go on, you'll find there's a very big difference between a cocktail made with Scotch, made with Irish whiskey, made with bourbon, made with rye. They really have quite different tastes, and there's quite significant taste differences in the different types of whiskies within those groups. But my recommendation, starting point, base it on your preferences, but get a gin, a whiskey, and a vodka. Now, in terms of price, I have seen people say, "Ooh, get the top quality stuff to make your drinks even better." I call bullshit. Once you start mixing, the difference between the top range and the mid-range vanishes very quickly. You really, I've learned this from trial and error, do not get really cheap and nasty shit, because you will taste that is not very good quality stuff. But just the big brands, it's somewhat uncool, if I have Jack Daniels or Jim Beam, but it's a decent quality and it's pretty affordable. So my personal recommendation is just get a mid-range drink when you're starting out. Look, if you have particular preferences, go for it, and you may develop preferences over time. That's fine. But starting out, don't be shy about just getting a very average mid-range spirit. Past those 3, you're starting to get into very opinionated territory. Again, what I think should guide you is the type of things you like to drink. Because once you get past the absolute basics, you're getting off into the woods at this point. If you want my recommendation, the next 3 you'd go for would be tequila, rum, and brandy. And again, there's quite a range of rums, there's quite a range of brandies. I'll go out on a limb and say it's not that divergent a range with tequilas. I'll probably get hate mail from tequila aficionados for saying that. But those would be my next 3. And from then on, you're opening up wide up beyond that. Now, some people would be jumping up and down, what about vermouth? Because if you want to make some classics, like a martini or a Manhattan, you need vermouth. I'm not really into martinis at all. absinthe. I added absinthe to my collection very early, but for some people that's quite out there, so you might not get on. One thing I recommend you add to your collection relatively early, maybe not in those first 5 or 6, but depending on what you like, maybe you should. That's fruit liqueurs. And it doesn't have to be anything really fancy or out there, but there are a lot of really nice and classic cocktails that particularly have orange liqueurs in there. You'll see triple sec or Cointreau or some other orange liqueurs recommended as an ingredient in a lot, including one of my favorites, the sidecar. But you can mix and match those. Yes, there are differences between different orange liqueurs, but get one, again, you don't have to get anything fancy. You can get triple sec or Cointreau from virtually any bottle shop, and there's almost no limit to fruit liqueurs. There's a whole bunch of cherry liqueurs. You get pear and all these other things. And I mentioned brandy before. There's your basic brandy, and when you go up with it, you get some cognac. But there's apple brandies, the American Applejack, the French Calvados. There's basically a whole bunch of permutations of brandies. They've got the same basic method, but because the ingredients are very different, the tastes are very different. And how I started getting, I guess, more and more out there ingredients is I'd just see a cocktail recipe and it'd say, put this in it. I go, what the hell is that? And I would look it up and go, oh, maybe I need some Dubonnet. No, maybe I'll get some Drambuie. Maybe I'll get, this, that, or the other. That's how my collection grew, because I would see the same ingredient I didn't have come up in multiple cocktail recipes. And so I thought, I'm going to get some of that. I'll tell you what, I'm getting that. And once you really get into exploratory territory, there are so many things you can try. Liqueurs flavored with virtually anything you can imagine. A whole range of really herbal liqueurs. I've got a chili liqueur from Mexico. It's pretty goddamn fierce. And basically any taste you can imagine probably exists. And you can make your own flavors with some base spirits, and I will be doing that in some other videos coming up. But that's my recommendation of how to start your booze collection for making cocktails. But cocktails aren't simply booze. There's the other things. There's a lot of fruit juices, particularly citrus juices, in cocktails, and you can either get the fruit themselves, and everyone goes, I've got to use fresh lemon juice or fresh lime juice. And yes, it actually does taste different. I, in my laziness, have got, hey, here's a big bottle of lemon juice from the supermarket. It's cheaper than buying multiple lemons. And although they just say this is 100% lemon juice, fresh almost always has a notably different taste, and it does taste better. But don't kill yourself. Like I said, if you're just starting out, if you're just experimenting, I'm not going to look askance at you if you're using bottled lemon juice or lime juice from the supermarket rather than squeezing your own fresh limes and lemons. Something else you have to think about is sweeteners. A lot of cocktails have sweeteners. Whether the recipe recommends actual sugar, something that you maybe mix with, say, bitters, grind up and blend into the drink, or a sugar syrup. Now, some of my favorite drinks, there's often recommended you use actual sugar, and they'll normally say like superfine sugar. Sometimes they just go a sugar cube and then put a bit of this on it and melt it and then scooch it up and mix it. I find that a bit of a pain, and there's almost always some sugar residue in the drink. Some people like that. Personally, I don't. I almost always go for a sugar syrup. These, again, are relatively easy to get from a supermarket, but they're super easy to make on your own. Sugar syrup is literally just 50% sugar, 50% water. Boil water in a pot on the stove, add the sugar, stir it, don't let it burn, because in sugar it will burn unless you like that caramelized taste. That's something to experiment with. But just mix it. When the sugar's dissolved, let it cool down, and store it in a sealed bottle in the fridge. It'll last quite a while. And you can experiment. There's white sugar, there's brown sugar, there's demerara sugar. I found some coconut sugar in the supermarket a while ago and tried that, and it made a really nice drink. And there's also liquid sweeteners that are basically designed for baking, but volume-wise, they're 1-for-1 for sugar. So you can get various cane syrups, and they all have their own flavor profile. That's interesting. The different sugars will make your drink taste different. Some people actually use honey, and of course, various honeys have different flavors and can be quite strong. So this is actually another area where you can experiment. A lot of people underestimate how much difference to a drink different sweeteners make, but it's another area you can experiment in and use a flavor that personally appeals to you. Now, those are all components that you drink, but you need something to make the drink with and something to drink from. I do recommend you get a cocktail shaker. The basic one, little two-piece, sometimes called a Parisian, usually very cheap, very easy to get, and I prefer it to the one that's called the Boston thing. It's like either a pint glass and metal glass, or two tins. I find them more fiddly to use. Some people prefer them. I prefer the simple Parisian. There's also, you get one that's got a little scroll top and it's got a built-in filter. I always worry about losing the lid off that because it's a bit fiddly. Just get a simple, straightforward shaker or improvise. If you've got something you can shake a cocktail in, don't let anyone who's a purist say, no, it has to be this. I'm not about purist, I'm about getting a result. And you do need some sort of strainer. Again, there's a standard cocktail strainer that fits on a cocktail shaker. And again, they're not particularly expensive. But hey, if you've just got a kitchen strainer, you can use that. And that's usually to filter out the ice if you've shaken the cocktail with ice, or if you've muddled some fruit in there and you don't actually want the fruit residue in the drink. In that case, you do want a fine kitchen strainer. You've probably got one. Improvise. We're just, MacGyvering this shit here. We're not purists. So that's my tips on your booze collection, juices, sweeteners, your implements. Hey, don't forget glasses to drink out of. That can actually affect the taste of the drink. You don't have to get the really expensive top-end glassware, although it feels nice and fancy to use glasses like that. But the glass, surprisingly, can have quite an effect on how the drink tastes, partly from perception, but also partly how it holds an aroma can actually change the drinking experience. So that is also worth looking into, what of the various bar glassware you're going to end up with. So as I go on, I'll be making cocktails. This was just the intro, how to get ready to make cocktails. Next, we'll be making them. We're off on the adventure. If you're wondering, what should I do? Start looking up cocktail recipes online. Find things that sound like they might taste good to you. Just say, what ingredients do I have? I've literally done that. What ingredients do I have? I'm going to say this, this, and this into the old search engine, and what cocktail can I make from that? I've made some great discoveries that way. And I also sometimes make custom drinks for friends. I ask them to say, what flavors do you like? What's your favorite booze? Where are you from? Tell me something about your personality, or I know something about your personality, and I come up with signature drinks for them. It's fun. That's also something I'll be doing further on. But you can ask me questions about any aspect of putting together cocktails. I'll do my best to answer them, whether it's by replying to comments or actually making a video to answer some good questions down the line. So I hope you're looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to this little adventure, sharing my hobby with you. It's not alcoholism, it's a hobby and a craft, and making a few interesting drinks, some classics, some less well known, and some improvised, and some signature drinks for people when I get to that stage. So yeah, if this sounds like something you'd like to be part of and learn more, do the old 1, 2, 3 with a subscribe, and ring that. Leave comments letting me know what you want out of this channel. That will be interesting to me. And I'm going to be uploading at least 1 or 2 ideas a week, whether it's a cocktail recipe or something you should add to your home bar. And we'll see where this takes us. This is the start of what I hope is going to be quite a fun journey. So if you're watching this on... All right, I'm letting that go there. That's just the thing where I say subscribe. I just noticed, okay, I wasn't going money. Lactose is good sweetener for drink. Where do you get lactose? Because lactose is, of course, a sugar. Milk-based sugar, milk byproduct. There's a few things. I mean, literally, if there's something that is a taste or a consistency you like, you can use it in cocktails. In terms of sweeteners, anything that's a sugar can be used as sweetener. So yeah, lactose would work, fructose, glucose, like again, or just sugar. And it's, as I said in that video, it is all going to affect the taste of the drink. Different sweeteners put a different flavor, and yeah, if you get really experienced, you'll learn what type of sweetener goes best with what type of booze. And of course, just adding certain fruit juices, sweet fruit juices like orange, or a very popular sort of, I guess it's more or less a cordial based on pomegranate juice. The old God, forgetting words. Did you make me forget words? Grenadine. I'm always forgetting the name grenadine. Yeah, you're not friendly Geordies, dude. No one thinks you're friendly Geordies. Yeah, so grenadine is more or less like a cordial that has a base of pomegranate juice, and yeah, actual just cordials. Like I've seen very interesting sort of specialty cordials in the supermarket. I thought, ooh, that would probably go well in a cocktail. I've got them, and they work well as sweeteners. Oh, is it from a brew supplies, home brew stores, Aussie Gun Money? Cooper's Brew Enhancer, a lactose and malt mix. That would probably work very well in cocktail. I'm going to have to visit home brew store. That's one thing I don't do because I don't like beer. But of course, you have sweeteners for beer brewing, sugar being a central part of beer brewing. Yeah, it's worth exploring. I know it's like I made this one foamy. You can still see the residual foam with egg white. That's the most common thing to use. But apparently, the water that you get from chickpeas, there's a name for that, and I forget what it is. But that's a good foamy thickener for cocktails. That's a vegan friendly thickener for cocktails. Cheese byproducts are whey if you're actually making your own cheese. And I don't know if it's the same thing. I saw someone talking about burrata water, and that's like some cheeses. I think like some cottage cheeses are in this burrata water, and some mozzarellas are in this burrata water. And when I showed this to Mrs. Angry, she said that's just whey. And and because different things get called different things around the world, but these are all good things. Foamy cocktails are good. Some people get freaked out at the idea of egg whites because they've heard stories about unpasteurized egg white making people sick. That's more of a thing in America where they have shit food handling qualities. But yeah, that thing, I had the carton that's from the supermarket because I got sick of cracking eggs and separating the yolk and the white. It's much more convenient to buy those cartons of egg white, which again I think is aimed at people who are making protein shakes or maybe egg white omelets or something. But I find that a very convenient way to get the egg white. But some people are freaked out at egg white. If it's for vegan purposes, that whatever the water's called from chickpeas. Water from chickpeas. What's it called? Aquafaba. That's the word. Viscous water which legume seeds such as chickpeas have been cooked. So Yes, due to its ability to mimic the functional properties of egg white, aquafaba can be used as a direct replacement in some cases. And that includes meringues and marshmallows. But it works in cocktails as the foamy thickener, which is nice for the consistency for a lot of cocktails. But so those are three things I know you can use: egg white, aquafaba, and whey from the cheese byproduct whey. And I'm not sure if burrata water is just whey or if that's a different thing. So there. Yeah, I think that's for the cartons of egg whites for making. I think it's for two purposes: for making egg white omelets and for making protein shakes. But it's super convenient. It's way more convenient than cracking eggs and separating out things. Here's a bit of trivia: cocktails that have egg white, to make them foamy, are usually a sour. And if you have the yolk or the whole egg in a cocktail, it's usually called a flip. So that's a little tip. If you see a cocktail and it's got the name flip, the word flip in its name, like it's a brandy flip or something, it's probably a egg in the cocktail. And sours, the egg white is often regarded as optional for sours. One of my all-time favorite cocktails is the whiskey sour. Pretty simple drink: whiskey, lemon juice, and sweetener, sugar. I use sugar syrup, and the egg white. So it's optional, but I always make it with egg white. Oh my god, it's a good drink. A whiskey sour is a great drink. I love my alcohol. I have a very intimate relationship with my alcohol. I think that's a fair thing to say. But this is why I got into cocktails, because it's a slightly moderate way to get pissed, because you sort of appreciate the fun. Particularly if you're out and you're paying like 20 in Australia, you're paying $20 for a drink. You tend to sip. You tend to savor it. My favorite podcast is the Irish comedian Blind Boy Boat Club. He described cocktails as, he's into meditation and whatnot. He described cocktails as like a mindful way of drinking booze, as in if you're taking your time with a cocktail because you paid a fucking fortune for it, you sort of sip it and really experience the flavors. Oh, but one cocktail is fine. One cocktail is fine. Oh God, I was in Gun Money. You're going to set up a still. That's becoming easier to do. Make your own spirits with a still. David, I'm pretty sure my liver's okay, but I don't really want any bad news. So I haven't just I've got a fluffy duck. What's a fluffy duck? A fluffy duck is a fucking terrible cocktail. That's like an 80s cocktail. But there's usually some variation in the ingredients. But a basic fluffy duck is gin, advocaat, which is like an egg-based liqueur. It's a very desserty liqueur. This recipe says gin, advocaat, triple sec, which is an orange liqueur. So you could use like triple sec or Cointreau or Curacao. There's a whole bunch of orange liqueurs. They're all different, but you can use them. So this one says gin, advocaat, triple sec, orange juice, and top it with lemonade or soda water. Well, they say club soda because it's American. Americans say club soda, it's our thing. So that's one version. The fluffiest cocktail ever. Well, here's interesting. Wikipedia says Fluffy Duck is the name of two different cocktails that both use advocaat. So there's a gin-based one that I just said, and then it says there's a much simpler one, is white rum, advocaat, and a little bit of heavy cream. So it's a very desserty cocktail, basically. Shitty cocktail, I would say. Not that I hate advocaat and desserty cocktails. Yes, how's it company? I imagine it is very dangerous to make spirits. Yes, there is a danger that you create poison when you make a home brew. and there is a danger that it still can blow up as well. It is quite risky. There were a couple cases recently of people being killed by poisonous homebrew. So, yeah. Did I ever do stand? I actually did open mic for a while until I decided YouTube was more fun. And I got a better audience on YouTube than with live stuff. And that's because my occasional sidekick, actually tonight's the first live stream he hasn't been on in a while. Aidsy was a stand-up comedian for over a decade, and then he was a director for a few years. Then he got really, really sick and he couldn't do that either. So, but yeah, so I know a lot of stand-up comedians. And I did mess around with open mic. But then YouTube came into the picture, and I enjoyed YouTube far more than trying to do stand-up comedy. So I've just played around on YouTube. Aussie Company saw some kids drank Granddad's Homebrew. Yeah, too much ethanol. One kid blind killed another. There were some adults. I forget which town it was in. It was I think it was in Western New South Wales. And there were some adults killed by someone's fucking homebrew. It is a dangerous thing. David, you think growing hydroponic weeds a safer enterprise? Fuck, I cannot wait till fucking cannabis is legalized. It's absolutely ridiculous that it's not with fucking... I'm sitting here drinking cocktails, but I freely say alcohol is far more dangerous, kills far more people, causes far more societal ills than... I mean, forget fucking cannabis. It does more damage than fucking cocaine and ecstasy does. Probably more than heroin does. TSR's basically a comedy channel when I started. I don't really do sketches anymore. I used to do sketches. Maybe I should do more sketches. I used to do more sketches in the early days on YouTube. But it's always been the YouTube version of comedy, me talking at the camera, trying to be funny. Aussie Gummer used to make coconut wine in the army. Damn. Yeah, that's like, what do they call it? Prison hoochies. Pruno? Is that what they call it? When they, fucking get some pulped up fruit and sugar and fucking ferment it in a toilet cistern. And that shit's dangerous. Again, makes you really sick. And you have a hangover that will kill you. But, it fucking gets the job done. And I guess if you're in prison, not that bad. That's the thing. The main fucking activating ingredient in booze is sugar. And then you need something's flavor. You have the various grain alcohols. You have the fruit-based alcohol. I love the stories where you get... have you ever seen the pictures or videos of drunk mooses in Northern Europe? Or I think it happens in Canada too. It's because trees, sometimes fruit that rots on a tree or falls to the ground will actually ferment and has an alcoholic content. And a moose or something similar chomps. It's each apple, say, is quite low alcohol, but they eat a bunch of them. And I'm going to find a picture. I'm just going to do a search here. Drunk moose in a tree. Search for drunk moose in a tree. Look at these fucking pictures, man. A sec. I will. Look at this. I'll do the old screen share. Where are we? My Chrome tab. Look at this story. Drunk Swedish elk found in apple tree near Gothenburg. It's basically eaten fermented apples and then got stuck in the tree because it's fucking drunk. It's just, isn't nature wonderful? Nature is amazing. It's just ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. PBR, how you doing, buddy? You had an African-American guy in Atlanta share homebrew moonshine. Yeah, it's very dangerous shit. It is very dangerous shit. What was the other one? Oh, in Tasmania, they have commercial cultivation of poppy to make medicinal anesthetics, like basically the medical versions of heroin, morphine and whatnot. So they have just huge fields of opium poppies, and they just have very low fences around them, and local wallabies have a habit of jumping into the thing and go, I'm hungry, this looks very green, and then they chew, and they eat a bunch of the poppy bulbs, get stoned out of their fucking heads, and then they're too stoned to find their way out of the field. So there's just these stoned wallabies hopping around in the fucking opium poppies going, hey! So I know a lot of historians and anthropologists have drawn the conclusion humans probably learned about both alcohol and drugs from seeing the effect certain plants had on animals. They saw a moose or something eat these apples and then act crazy, and they go, why's the moose acting crazy? And then they ate a few of the apples and they thought, fuck, did you feel that, Buzz? And then they thought, I wonder if we could do that, in a controlled way. And they ended up learning the processes of fermentation and much later distillation. So like fermentation goes back thousands of years. But I think distillation, like the production of like grain alcohols like whiskey, I think that goes back at least 800 years. It's a thing. So, yeah, I think, the principle of alcohol was learned from seeing animals eat fermented fruit and act all trippy. It's the same theory. The theory was that coffee, people realized the effect, it's like a goat herder or whatever, and there was a coffee plant there, and the herd animal nibbled on the coffee beans and then started pinging all over the place. The person goes, what's that about? And so they try the coffee beans. Oh, that's not bad. And then they learned how to refine the thing. And yeah, things like opium and whatnot, they probably learned from seeing the effect on animals. Saf wants to get drunk on cider. Oh, yeah, that's right, Aussie Young Bunny. Honey mead. Yes, honey and water that's gone bad. It's like when I'm disparaging beer drinkers because I don't like beer. Beer's just rotten weeds. The core element of beer being hops and barley and whatnot. So beer is rotten weeds. Whiskey's grain that's gone rotten. Angry mead, Alexander. I think mead's comparatively easy to make. Yeah, because it is just like fermented honey. But I see. Here's the interesting thing, David. I reckon how people learned about pufferfish, because someone's eating fish and then they eat a particular sort of fish and they die. And okay, don't eat that fish. But then they saw some animals. I know foxes are very good at detecting what part of a poisonous animal is poisonous. Like foxes are renowned for flipping over cane toads in Australia, and there's this bit like under their throat and their tongue that's good quality meat that's not toxic, and the fox can just sniff out and go, no, this bit won't kill me. And so I think that's where people started eating those toxic fish in Japan, when they saw a particular animal really selectively eat parts of it and not die. And so they learned you could eat part of it. Luke is vodka potato juice. Well, that's the stereotype. Not all vodka is potato based. A lot of vodka is grain based. The legal definition of vodka is just a neutral spirit, a neutral clear spirit, which is kind of funny because now you get all these vodkas on the market that are flavored. They taste different. They've got different stuff blended. Like gin is a clear spirit, but it's flavored with botanicals. Vodka's meant to have no taste. To strictly meet the legal definition of vodka, it's meant to have no taste. But of course, you have all these vodkas on the market now that specifically market themselves for their taste. And so technically they're not vodkas, but they are. Yeah, you're right, Ozzy Gomani. Most commercially sold vodka is grain-based. Oh, Friendly Geordies, well, again, we know you're not Friendly Geordies, but yes. No, I've done a bit of research on alcohol. But, yeah, some of the stuff that's called vodka, like you get very good quality vodkas in Russia, and you also get exceptionally bad stuff that's basically poison. And Russians drink it. It's really fucking weird. We had fun last week with AIDS. We were looking up all the definitions of the various alcohols. Like bourbon has to be 51% corn. To be recognized as bourbon in America, it has to be made in America and be at least 51% corn based, and it can be the other 49% can be other grains. And rye whiskey has to be 51% rye grain, and can be other stuff. So because bourbon is at least half corn, it's sweeter than rye. Rye has a sharper taste. Yes, Arthur. That's the thing. Beer's more expensive in Russia than vodka. It's, again, some of the stuff that's sold as vodka in Russia is fucking... And yes, it kills a bunch of people. Basically poison sold as vodka, but yeah. Aussie Gun Money, I think you're probably 100% right. The reason it's more common to make grain-based spirit, including grain-based vodka as opposed to potato, is it's easier to grow grain than potato in a lot of environments. I saw that story, David. Some company saying the grain from that they're making their vodka from is from the Chernobyl exclusion zone. And it's just like, yeah, fuck off with that. It's just like, what do you call a cocktail made with the Chernobyl vodka? The cancer. Yeah, I'm sure it's being tested for radiation and whatnot, but it just seems silly, honestly. It seems very silly doing something like that. But everyone's going for a gimmick. I should try more Australian vodkas. I actually... I had some Australian vodka recently. It's all gone now. Got American vodka at the moment from Costco. But I haven't really tried Australian whiskies, and I know I've tried Australian gins. I'm not a huge gin drinker, I know gin aficionados will tell you, oh, this one I can taste the juniper, and this one I can taste the orange peel. I was like, okay, cool. I'm not that attuned to the variances in gin. Yeah, I think Australian whiskies are sort of based on the Scotch model. Because, as what we said in the video that I previewed, I think it's like the 4 big whiskies worldwide are, Scotch, Irish, bourbon, and rye whiskies. I think a lot of the Japanese whiskies, which are very popular they're sort of based on the Scotch model. Again, I haven't really drunk Japan, and again, I'm not that much of a connoisseur that I can taste something except I can tell the difference between Scotch is much smokier than even Irish whiskey. A bourbon is sweeter than rye, and that sort of thing. Can taste those differences, but you get these people who smell a particular whiskey and start telling you about what part of the country it came from. Like, they can tell this is from a distillery that's near the ocean, or this is from over here. Yes, I was thinking the Scotch filtered through peat gives it a smoky flavour. But yeah, it's the real serious whiskey aficionados will talk about all these subtle differences, and it's lost on me, man. I just, I don't drink it straight anyway. I just like it in cocktails. So it is. And hey, that brings us to Safra. I am passing on my alcoholic knowledge. I started up. I don't know if you were here. I actually played my first video for my cocktail channel, which I'll be going public with in the next couple of weeks. I want to record another couple of videos, do some stuff with some friends. The first ones I have in mind, one that I'm going to shoot this weekend with a friend, is talking about the difference bitters and garnishes make to the taste of a cocktail. So I'm going to have a friend over. I'm going to make them an old-fashioned, which is a very simple Scotch cocktail, which is basically just whiskey, sweetener, bitters, and a garnish, usually orange peel. So I'm going to show them the difference that bitters and the garnish makes. I just, do the base, which is just, the whiskey with a sweetener, basically. And then go, okay, now I'm going to put a bit of bitters in, and can you taste the difference in that? And then I'm going to do the thing with the orange oil, squeeze orange oil onto it and rub around the glass and see how much difference that makes. And I think another friend who said she's keen to help, but she really drinks like, fucking Alco Pops and cider and doesn't know what she'd like in the cocktail thing. So I'm going to get her to try 3 different styles of cocktail. A sweet one, which will probably be rum based, a sour, maybe my favorite, the whiskey sour, and then probably one that leans a bit more towards bitter, either bitter or even savory flavored. So you can say, like, under the umbrella cocktail, you get incredibly different things. Thanks for dropping by for the last 5 minutes, Megaleech. Yay! And I'm going to head on out. Say good night to you fine people. Hope you all look after yourselves. Hope any of us who contract coronavirus over the coming months suffer as little as possible and recover. Yes, savory cocktails, ones with a herb profile or salty or things like that. It's a thing. It's a thing. So look after yourself, one and all. I hope you stay well. I hope to see you again soon. I'll try and make a Wang Fat Wednesday video tomorrow. Be interesting. Oh, I'm looking forward. Didn't even get onto it. Talk about Americans were having their fucking Super Tuesday. Might have results for that tomorrow. Going to be very interested to see what happens in that. See you all, everyone. Take care, one and all.